John Collins Black never set out to be a millionaire. In fact, for most of his life, he had been just another dreamer, one of the countless kids who grew up believing that treasure was out there, waiting to be found. But unlike the childhood fantasies that faded for most, John never let go of that belief. Born in a small town in Oregon, John was raised on stories of hidden riches. His grandfather, a Navy veteran, used to tell him about sunken ships off the Florida coast, stuffed with Spanish gold. His father, an antique dealer, would bring home relics from estate sales, old maps, locked chests, dusty journals filled with scribbled secrets. John was captivated. He wanted to be an explorer, a real-life adventurer. But as he got older, the world around him didn't seem to work that way. Treasure hunts were for fairy tales, and real wealth came from investments, businesses, and cold, hard calculations. So he adapted. John dove into technology, fascinated by the rise of cryptocurrency. By the time Bitcoin was still an underground phenomenon, he was already an early believer. He mined, he invested, and as the years passed, he watched the world change around him. When Bitcoin skyrocketed, John found himself sitting on a fortune, but something gnawed at him. He had the money, the success, everything he was supposed to want, and yet all he could think about was the treasure hunts of his childhood. That's when the idea struck. What if he created a modern treasure hunt? A real one. Not some marketing gimmick, but a true adventure. One that would send people out into the world, searching, deciphering clues, feeling that same rush he had dreamed of as a kid. He wouldn't just fund it, he would design it himself. Over the course of a year, John began assembling his plan in absolute secrecy. He traveled the country, selecting locations with a meticulous eye. He researched history, geography, and puzzles, crafting a hunt that would challenge and thrill. But the treasure itself, what would it be? If this was going to be a hunt that captivated people, the prize had to be something extraordinary. He scoured auction houses, estate sales, and private collectors, gathering items that were not just valuable, but legendary. A Michael Jordan rookie card, an original Picasso pendant, a diamond brooch once worn by Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. He found gold doubloons from shipwrecks, uncirculated gold coins, and even a physical Bitcoin, something that perfectly fused the modern world with the ancient thrill of discovery. Then came the final piece, the book. John knew that every great treasure hunt needed a map, but instead of X's on a parchment, he created There's Treasure Inside, a book that was part memoir, part puzzle, and part guide. Within its pages, he buried clues, some obvious, some so subtle that only the most patient and dedicated searchers would uncover them. By the time November 2024 arrived, the stage was set. 5 treasure chests, hidden across 5 states. Millions of dollars in prizes. A book filled with riddles waiting to be solved. And the world had no idea what was coming. November 2024 was an unremarkable month for most. The holiday season was approaching. The world was preoccupied with end-of-year sales, travel plans, and the latest viral distractions. But for those who happened to pick up a book titled There's Treasure Inside, their lives were about to change forever. John Collins Black had planned the book's release with precision. No flashy marketing campaigns, no over-the-top announcements, just whispers, breadcrumbs, and an air of mystery. It appeared in select bookstores, hidden among bestsellers and memoirs, its black cover adorned with a simple gold-embossed title. No subtitle, no indication of what lay within. But inside was something extraordinary. The opening pages read like a personal memoir. John wrote about his childhood, his fascination with treasure hunts, and his unexpected rise to wealth through Bitcoin. He detailed his belief that adventure was dying in the modern world, that people had become too focused on screens, algorithms, and instant gratification. He wanted to change that. Then, the book took a turn. Jon introduced the idea of a real-life treasure hunt, teasing readers with the notion that hidden somewhere out in the real world were 5 chests filled with incredible riches. Some might have dismissed it as fiction, an elaborate metaphor, but the clues were there, woven between the lines, hidden in the margins, coded into the very structure of the book. He didn't hand out coordinates. He didn't give step-by-step instructions. Instead, he embedded history, riddles, and cryptic references. Some chapters detailed historical events, but why those events? Why those particular figures? Why mention a Picasso pendant when talking about innovation? Why bring up George Washington's jelly glass when discussing legacies? The first readers to pick up the book were casual. They skimmed. They enjoyed Jon's writing. But then something happened. A Reddit user, an avid puzzle enthusiast, posted a passage from the book under the title, "I think this millionaire just hid real treasure, and we're all missing it." It went unnoticed at first, but within hours another reader commented, "Wait, page 76 has a weird spacing in the paragraph, and if you take the first letter of each line, it spells Northwest." A wave of realization swept through online forums. Readers started analyzing every page, every word, every number. The book wasn't just a memoir, it was a challenge. And then the bombshell dropped. Jon Collins Black broke his silence with a single cryptic post on his barely used X, formerly Twitter, account. "Adventure awaits. There's treasure inside. Just find it." The post exploded. News outlets picked it up. Articles surfaced. Bitcoin millionaire launches real-life treasure hunt. Millions at stake. Jon Collins Black's mysterious book contains hidden clues to buried fortune. Copies of There's Treasure Inside sold out overnight. People who had ignored the book in stores rushed back to grab it. Forums swelled with theorists and codebreakers. Some dismissed it as a hoax. Others were already booking flights. The hunt had begun. But Jon had been careful. He knew what he was doing. The book contained just enough to spark the fire, but not enough to make it easy. And as the world raced to crack the first clues, Jon watched from the shadows, a quiet smile on his face. The internet was in a frenzy. Within days of Jon Collins Black's cryptic post, thousands of people were dissecting every page of There's Treasure Inside. Some worked alone in quiet obsession. Others formed online groups, sharing theories and discoveries. It was no longer just a book. It was a movement. And then came the first breakthrough. A university student in Chicago, known online as @CipherHunter, posted something that sent shockwaves through the treasure hunting community. Page 143. Every chapter has a hidden date. If you take the second letter of every capitalized word in this chapter, it spells Lakeview. Lakeview. But Lakeview where? There were dozens across the country. Some dismissed it as a coincidence, but then another hunter posted a discovery from a completely different part of the book. The footnote on page 56 refers to a 1911 event that didn't actually happen that year. But in 1907, a gold shipment vanished near Lakeview, Oregon. Suddenly, the theory held weight. The book wasn't just hiding clues, it was pointing to history. Jon Collins Black hadn't just hidden treasure, he had anchored it to real, forgotten stories. Treasure hunters pored over old newspapers, maps, and historical documents. Theories branched out like a spider web. Some believed each treasure was linked to a famous lost fortune in American history. Others speculated Jon had hidden fake clues designed to mislead. And then someone went searching. A man named Tyler Jensen, an ex-Marine and outdoorsman, drove from California to Lakeview, Oregon. He wasn't a historian, nor a crypto millionaire, just a guy who loved a challenge. Armed with There's Treasure Inside and a notebook full of theories, he arrived at the high desert landscape surrounding Lakeview. He wasn't the only one. Dozens of treasure hunters had already gathered. Some carried shovels, though Jon had explicitly said nothing was buried underground. Others scoured old landmarks, using metal detectors, hoping for a miracle. But Tyler had something different. He had patience. He spent hours reading the book under the open sky, comparing its pages to the real-world surroundings. If Jon had left hints, they wouldn't be obvious. They'd be subtle, poetic, something hidden in the beauty of the land itself. And then, just before dusk, standing near an abandoned railway station, Tyler noticed something: graffiti on a rusted metal sign. T.I., just 2 letters. It could have meant anything, but to Tyler, it meant everything. There's treasure inside. His pulse raced. He looked around, scanning the area. If this was a clue, it had been here for a while. Maybe weeks, maybe years. He reached out, running his fingers across the letters. The paint had faded, but it was deliberate. Someone had left this here. Had John Collins Black been here himself? The next morning, the forums exploded. Someone found something in Lakeview. Did Jon leave a mark at the first location? What does T.I. mean? Just the book title or more? Jon, watching everything from behind the curtain, remained silent. The hunt was no longer just an idea. It was real. And this was only the beginning. The Lakeview discovery ignited a wildfire. News stations picked up the story. Social media swarmed with speculation. Theories flooded in from every corner of the internet, some brilliant, others absurd. What if the TI stands for something else? A location? A coded message? John Collins Black must have been in Lakeview to place that mark. Where else has he traveled? Is it possible someone already found the first treasure and just isn't saying anything? For every theory, there were 100 questions. And then, as if to pour gasoline on the fire, Jon made his second post. 1 down. 4 to go. There's treasure inside. The world went insane. Did he mean the first treasure had already been found? Or was he confirming that Lakeview was one of the 5 hidden locations? Had Tyler Jensen, the man who found the graffiti, missed something crucial? Treasure hunters didn't wait for answers. They mobilized. Tyler, now an unwilling celebrity in the growing community, returned to Lakeview with a camera crew following him. He combed through the area again, searching for anything he might have overlooked. More searchers arrived, drawn by the hype. Some stayed in town, bribing locals for old stories or maps. Others scoured the wilderness, looking for a glimmer of gold, a hidden compartment, anything. But nothing surfaced. Was it a dead end? A trick? Or had someone quietly claimed the first prize? Then, a cryptic message appeared in an obscure forum dedicated to riddles and codes. You're looking at the wrong mark. TI isn't where it ends. It's where it begins. No username. No traceable account. Treasure hunters dissected the message like detectives at a crime scene. What did it mean? Was Jon himself behind it? Was this an insider? Someone who knew more? And then, a sharp-eyed user spotted something. The first letters of each sentence in the mysterious message spelled TEXAS. The internet erupted. Could it be? Was the second location hidden somewhere in Texas? The sheer size of the state made it an overwhelming possibility, but one that fit. Texas was rich with history, filled with old legends of lost treasures, hidden gold, and outlaw stashes. A rush of treasure hunters redirected their efforts, booking flights, plotting theories. But where in Texas? If There's Treasure Inside contained the clue, no one had cracked it yet. And Jon? Jon Collins Black, the man who had set this entire hunt in motion, sat back and watched. This was exactly what he wanted. The thrill, the chase, the uncertainty. And he knew something the world didn't. Lakeview had only been a whisper. Texas? Texas was a storm waiting to break. By now, the world was hooked. The TI graffiti in Lakeview had sparked a wave of speculation, but the mysterious message pointing to Texas sent everything into overdrive. Treasure hunters descended upon the Lone Star State in droves. Some relied on pure instinct, racing to historic sites tied to legends of lost gold. Others meticulously combed through "There's treasure inside," hoping to find the hidden key that would unlock the next step. Then, just as excitement hit a fever pitch, another piece of the puzzle emerged, this time from an unexpected place. A rare book collector in Austin came forward, claiming he had noticed something peculiar in "There's Treasure Inside." He owned a first edition of the book, and after hearing about the hunt, he decided to compare his copy to later prints. What he found changed everything. In his version, the first letter of every third paragraph in a particular chapter spelled out the word Pecos, Pecos, Texas, a small town with a history stretching back to the Old West, a place of dust, cattle, and legends of buried loot from outlaws who never made it to safety. Suddenly, it wasn't just a theory anymore. Treasure hunters packed up and headed west. Pecos was an unlikely battleground for the world's greatest treasure hunt, but the town embraced it. Businesses welcomed the influx of visitors, restaurants filled with eager theorists swapping ideas over coffee, and the local historical society found itself flooded with inquiries about old legends. Everyone was asking the same question: why Pecos? And then another piece clicked into place. A deep dive into Texas history uncovered a story that hadn't been widely known, a tale of a missing treasure dating back to 1877. That year, a notorious outlaw named Three-Toe McLean, so named after a failed robbery left him with fewer toes than he started with, had been on the run with a stolen shipment of gold coins. Legend had it that before he was caught, he stashed the loot somewhere near Pecos. But no one ever found it. Had John Collins Black tied his modern treasure to a forgotten legend of the past? The theory made too much sense to ignore. Treasure hunters fanned out across the town and surrounding areas. Some scoured historical buildings, looking for hidden compartments or carvings. Others ventured into the rugged desert, searching for unusual markers, anything that might indicate a hidden trove. And then, something happened. A young couple from Arizona, backpackers with a love for puzzles, ventured off the beaten path. Using old maps and references from "There's Treasure Inside," they followed a winding trail leading away from the main roads, through an abandoned stretch of canyon lands just outside of Pecos. There, beneath a century-old oak tree, they spotted something, a small metal plaque embedded in the tree bark. Etched onto its surface were 3 letters, JCB, John Collins Black. The world held its breath. Had the second treasure just been discovered? Or was this yet another piece of a much bigger puzzle? The moment the metal plaque was discovered in Pecos, the treasure hunting world froze. For weeks, people had been searching Texas, chasing clues hidden within "There's Treasure Inside." Now, at last, there was undeniable proof that John Collins Black had been here. But was this the treasure itself, or just another breadcrumb leading to something bigger? The young couple, overwhelmed by the magnitude of their find, hesitated. Should they dig beneath the tree? Search the area? Or was this a test, meant to push them toward something else? News of the JCB plaque spread like wildfire. Some believed it marked the exact location of the treasure. Others theorized it was a redirect, a way of saying, "You're close, but not quite there yet." John, ever the enigmatic mastermind, remained silent. But then, after days of speculation, something no one expected happened. John broke his silence with a final message. It wasn't a cryptic post, it wasn't another riddle. It was a video The video, uploaded to Jon's social media, showed him standing in a vast desert landscape, the wind kicking up dust behind him. "If you're watching this," he said, a grin spreading across his face, "you're already part of the greatest adventure of your life. And I have one last thing to tell you." The world held its breath. The treasure is real. Every single chest, every single prize. But here's the thing. A long pause. You were never supposed to find it alone. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Jon explained that there's treasure inside wasn't just about gold, jewels, and artifacts. It was about the journey, the people, the connections formed along the way. He had designed the hunt so that no single person could solve it entirely on their own. The final treasure chest? It could only be found through collaboration. The clues, scattered across 5 locations, weren't just markers for treasure. They were pieces of a larger puzzle. No one could claim everything unless they worked together. Jon, standing before the camera, delivered his final challenge. "You have the pieces. Now put them together." Over the next week, something remarkable happened. Treasure hunters who had been racing against each other stopped competing and started working together. The Lakeview searchers connected with those in Pecos. Another group who had found an unnoticed clue in a 3rd location brought their knowledge to the table. Bit by bit, the final mystery unraveled. And then, just before dawn in early April 2025, a small team of dedicated treasure hunters, armed with their combined knowledge, stood before the final location. Deep in the wilderness of Montana, nestled in a remote valley, hidden beneath an ancient stone formation, they found it. The final chest. Inside, a solid gold pendant designed by Picasso. A Michael Jordan rookie card in pristine condition. A single physical Bitcoin, worth millions on its own. A letter, handwritten by John Collins Black. The letter read, "You did it. You cracked the code. But I hope, more than anything, that you found something even greater along the way." Adventure is never about the prize, it's about the journey. And now, it's your turn to write the next chapter. The treasure hunters had won. But more importantly, they had lived the adventure of a lifetime. And somewhere, far away, watching it all unfold, John Collins Black smiled. Because he knew this was just the beginning.